Okay, so today we'll have spiral dynamics in 83 minutes or something like that. It's going to be really fun to take you guys through the model. And yeah, a few minutes ago I asked everyone here if there's any experience with the model from before, and it seems like most people here are quite new on the territory, which is really nice. It's an honor to kind of introduce you guys to the model. So we'll have some fun. Let's keep like a pretty playful mind and see what we can learn in quite short amount of time. So I don't think we will need a microphone. If you guys have any questions, just pull your hand up and let me know. The goal here is not for me to just talk. The goal here is really to like transfer as much as possible in this limited time for you guys. So if someone is getting lost in the way, feel free to turn your hand up and we'll get through it. So spiral dynamics. It is a model that helps us track how people's values change over time. So this works, you will understand that this works for both people, but also collectives. When we go through this model, you will begin to recognize yourself, some friends, maybe parents, maybe grandparents, and eventually you will also start to recognize how movements also work in similar ways. So it's going to be exciting to kind of start this. So before we begin, we will kind of land with some base rules of spiral dynamics. These are just rules that you will begin to understand, and if we get this right in the lower stages of the spiral, we will begin to predict what will happen later on in the spiral. So these rules are very simple, but they are very good to start off with. So we have two sides of the spiral. We have the individual side, which for now we'll call me. And then we have the collective side of things, which we will call we, right? There are some people who are, very much for their own success, for example. They are kind of living the world like, oh, me first, American dream, I have to make it. But then you have other types of people who are more concerned with the bigger picture, right? I want to save the world, or I want to save the environment, or there are several other ways to look at the world too, which is more collective. So these two, we will begin to recognize them, but this is a base pattern in spiral dynamics. But we can also say that we can call it more. And here, of course, it would be less. So, same, you will begin to recognize this as we kind of go through the spiral again, but we will start from the bottom of the spiral. And in spiral dynamics, of course, we have different stages, and as we go through the stages, we kind of raise our awareness, or we become, we gain new qualities, and we kind of grow up, in a sense. So we're going to start at this side, the individual side, at a stage what we call beige in spiral dynamics. And we'll start quite far down. And these colors, they don't actually mean much. They are simply for us to kind of begin to have a vocabulary as we kind of build on this model. So we'll begin with beige. And of course, it's a quite low stage. It's actually the lowest stage in traditional spiral dynamics. So this, some people call survival. And we will strawman these stages, so we'll just have like a conversation of what a person would be like if they were like 100% beige. But eventually you'll also notice that people actually are hybrids in a sense. So no one is really 100% beige. This is just for simplicity. We're kind of playing with the model, and eventually when we recognize the patterns, we begin to kind of untangle some of this nuance. So we begin with beige, survival, and it's about values, right? But actually someone who is at beige, values might be a little bit overkill of a word. Someone at stage beige, they're not really following any values that they know of. If they're hungry, they make themselves heard that they're hungry, they might cry, they might scream. These are very survivalistic, almost animalistic behavior. We can see babies at this stage. If an adult is stage beige, it's probably something that something stalled their development. So beige is a stage that we kind of outgrow quite fast. If you are in a family unit and you're only kind of at beige, you're not really thinking of the larger picture. It's kind of unaware, not selfish, because they are not really, it's a quite basic stage. So you will also realize that it's not really efficient to be fully beige. We might even get better at survival if we start to kind of see that there are other people around us. And this is where we will see our first transition from a very individualistic stage, which is beige, into the next stage in spiral dynamics, which we call purple. So this is the first collective stage that we find on the spiral. So when kids turn maybe 2 years old, something shifts. They're not only reacting. Now they begin to see that there are other entities in the family. They can kind of begin to see that, oh, if I help others, they will also help me too. This is the first transition from me to we. So this is also something, most people actually go through this transition when they are so young, so they don't really even remember it. But you can maybe see this in young kids. These are like the golden years for a family, when the kid is very loving. If an adult is in this stage, it's a quite magical stage. We're not really thinking about the laws of the universe or how to make money or anything like this. It's quite a natural stage. You're just kind of experiencing, and something that purple begins to do that beige didn't do is that now they begin to kind of weave stories into why does this person not like me, or what should I do to belong more, or how can I be needed in a sense. Purple, we are beginning to kind of form qualities that we will begin to use later in the spiral. So there are also purple societies. Beige societies, they might be very survivalistic, right? Like thousands of years ago, maybe this was the type of people survived together and kind of worked really hard to do that. But purple societies, they are quite egalitarian in the sense that here we have elders who are, you know, the ones that we listen to. We look up to these elders, and everyone is kind of doing their part in this tribe. So purple is also called the tribal stage because this is kind of the narrative that we are building. So purple. This is also a stage that eventually will exhaust itself, and we can begin to learn now in the patterns of spiral dynamics that the next stage here will be something on the individualistic side again. A me stage will emerge from this collective stage called purple. Let's imagine a tribe where everyone is kind of doing their part, collecting firewood, you know, having a good time, and then one young individual or any individual thinks, why should I kind of follow the norms, the rules of this tribe? Purple, of course, the most dangerous thing for a purple individual is to be excluded from the tribe. Then we can't really do anything about that. Anyways, this person that recognizes that, why should I follow the rules? Why should I follow this rule weave that we've created? This is when red emerges. So red in spiral dynamics is known as the very dominant stage. Why should I collect this firewood when I can just tell people what to do? So here in spiral dynamics, we're quite early, but we can begin to see that we have red actually is purple plus beige in a sense, that we have kind of transcended purple and included all these other stages. So red actually understands these scenarios that purple have weaved, but understand, oh, I can actually gain more out of this if I take this into my own hands, if I just dominate the other people, or I can become the leader. I'm the strongest. This is red speaking. You can see in societies or in some tribes that actually the leaders of the tribe, they might be operating from red, and most of the people might be operating from purple. So a society, just like how a person is not just one color, a society or a group of people are going to have their own spiral dynamics footprint in a sense. So red is a stage that we can actually begin to see a lot in our modern world. We have a lot of places in the world that have a lot of red in them. So I just wanted to kind of, before we begin to build upon this, we are really focused here on understanding the pattern of, we have the individualistic stages and we have the collective stages, and they kind of build on top of each other. They exhaust themselves, right? Like beige, of course, is only focused on their own survival, but that only gets you so far. By kind of becoming a part of a tribe, now we can do more things. We can begin to build small communities, and eventually these communities also turn into red. Now we can kind of begin to even maybe take over other communities, right? You had like Vikings, for example, who were very red. If you have something that red wants, they might just go and take it. So we've had, in history, we can see that red communities actually went and just plundered purple communities, and this is kind of how this plays out. So this pattern of spiral dynamics that we are kind of building on now, is this clear for everyone, or are there any questions about this so far?
Why would beige not instantly jump to red? Why does it require purple? Can there be a scenario where you skip the VVV and you just follow the VVV?
Yeah, sure. So beige actually needs purple to understand like what people want, what people like, how the community is built up. In order to kind of master or control the system, you need to kind of understand the bits and pieces. Beige is far too reactive. If beige just beige is a little bit too short time horizon sense. Just see something and takes it. Well, you can understand, timing maybe a little bit better with purple. And this is something that we'll begin to see, that this timing window, playing the long game, kind of rises here as we begin also. So it's simply not, it doesn't understand the community that it wants to lead or take over or utilize, that beige could do. So red also doesn't really scale. Let's say you have a community of only red people, or a city of only red people. How is this city going to continue to evolve when these warlords of red, they are just going to be overthrown by another warlord? And it doesn't, if everyone is just kind of taking what they want, this doesn't really scale. And also for the red individual that wants to take over power, sure, it might work once, but you can't really play the long game. It's not thinking long enough. It might betray someone, but then that is also, this simply doesn't scale. So we see also countries that get stuck in a very red-dominated culture. You can't really build the institutions. You can't really make investments or be sure that whatever we're building is going to last. Red doesn't scale in this sense. So the next stage, again, using the patterns of spiral dynamics, we can understand that a new stage will emerge from this, which we call blue. And blue is known to be the authoritarian stage. If we, because how can we begin to scale? Well, we have some technologies that are blue in today's world. For example, prisons or school system or healthcare. Now, if everyone just kind of goes together and follows the rules, then we can actually contain these red. Of course, now I'm strawmanning these stages. There are many great things that we can learn from each stage. Like purple, we have a community. We recognize that other people have their needs too, just like we have. Of course, it can turn out to be kind of needy in a sense, and we might not stand up for ourselves, but this is something that we can learn at red. We can learn to stand up for ourselves, courage, determination. These are things that we can learn from the individual side of things. And blue, of course, there are things that we can learn too. And we see a lot of technologies that are, blue is a very, very common stage in today's world. We all here kind of grew up through many of these blue institutions, for example. So, and many of our parents are blue. In traditional spiral dynamics literature, we speak a lot on blue, like samurais, for example, honor, being a good citizen. These are blue values. Blue religions, for example, are really about following the rules, being a good citizen. We're kind of seeing how traditional spiral dynamics explained this stage. But I would like to also begin to discuss how does these stages play out in the modern world. What is a blue millennial, for example? Blue is really interesting because if you see a group of kids, maybe 20 years old, 25 years old, and they are walking, they might have the same clothes, the same phone, the same career goals. This is very blue. We might, what blue likes to do is kind of like purple, being very focused on the rules, the meta. What are everyone else thinking? Actually, a word that comes to mind that blue likes to use is cringe, right? It's funny actually because people who are blue, they want to like stand out by standing in, right? You can see how social media, like the algorithms of TikTok, for example, if you just follow the rules and you do it right, then you will become famous for doing what everyone else does. This is like kind of the dream of the blue, that if we just follow the rules, everyone will recognize that I'm a good citizen. And of course, this is something, now we are beginning to see some very popular stages. Something very blue is to go to school, get your education, and then you work in a job, and then eventually you get your retirement. And if you are doing something else, then you are not really following the rules. Now it's something weird. So a lot of us carry a lot of weight. We'll come back to this, but a lot of people here come from blue systems, are raised by blue values. So this is a very important stage that we'll come back to. But just like purple, you know, everyone is kind of collecting firewood together. There is something that will emerge from this again, and we'll use the patterns of spiral dynamics to also again make the jump here to a new stage called orange. We can call it the entrepreneur, for example. Right? You have people that are sitting still in class, and then you have this person who's like, why should I go to this class when I'm not going to learn anything that I'm going to need for my success? Orange is the success stage. This is when we break away from blue and say me, again, rather than we. But we are still, you know, like an orange person is not going to kill you if you have something that it wants, but it might kill your company in a sense, because we are still operating from the stages that we've gone through. We're still following the rules, but we are doing it to win. Sports, for example, is a very orange phenomena, winning, or even how we see celebrities today. We have celebrities that are famous for being famous. This is a very interesting phenomena that is very orange. If we look at collectives, like countries, for example, we can see Dubai. It's a perfect example that I like to use to kind of show the transitions that a collective can make. It actually, Dubai, if we go back 100 years or so, it used to be red almost. And then something happened. We began to transition to authoritarian blue, very rule-based. And now we can see that, wow, if you think about Dubai, now it's all luxury. Now people go there to make money, to buy status symbols. This is very orange. So this is, we can see America, for example. The American dream was built on very orange values. You move to America, maybe if you are from a country that is blue, you might feel more at home in an orange country. So we've made some jumps already in the spiral. We are still quite at the stages that are quite normal in today's society, but I don't want to lose anyone here. So do we have any questions about, yeah? Yeah, so this is how most people actually jump. Of course, there are less healthy spiral dynamics footprints when, for example, someone is very red and they attempt to skip a stage. This will then we will come to this like edge cases. But yeah, for blue, for example, you might be just tired of following the rules. You might have some like a dream that you want to go for, but blue can be very heavy to carry. It's asking a lot. This is less, less, less. It's very sacrificial. And at a certain point, there is something in here too, right? There's security. We don't really need to. So you gain something. But there's also something to gain here. And of course, now we are also strawmanning. We don't need to jump all the way from all the way here to here. But as we are kind of going through these stages, we are kind of strawmanning. So now when we have kind of understood the first 5 stages of spiral dynamics, we can begin to see, okay, how can we use spiral dynamics to kind of explain some phenomena that are very common in our lives. For example, I want to touch a little bit on ADHD. How many people here think that they might have ADHD or no? Oh, well, so yes, it is a very common thing. And we can use spiral dynamics to explain maybe where this comes from. Before we do this, I also want to kind of talk a little bit about family cultures. Let's say you are in an orange entrepreneurial family. When you kind of grow up, you're gonna go through these stages quite fast until you kind of you inherit your space in the spiral, essentially. So if you have a blue family or a red family, right, then you will kind of go up very fast and inherit your place in the spiral. And then you can kind of shoot off on your own. So what is ADHD from a spiral dynamics perspective? Well, let's say you have a kid that is in a blue system, and then somehow they manage to get orange emerging awareness in a blue system. The teacher will most likely be blue. This is very common. And the healthcare professionals are also quite often blue, setting the diagnoses, all of these things. And the teacher might be blue, but the kid actually, who might just be 10 years old or something like that, might develop orange stage awareness in a blue system. So I wrote a Substack article called ADHD, Orange Kids in Blue Cages, which kind of summarizes what I'm kind of trying to portray. Because what are some of the symptoms of ADHD? Well, it's really like not sitting still, not caring about rules. What I'm trying to say is that maybe ADHD is orange awareness kind of being stuck in a blue system. And of course, many of the medications that blue comes in with is just for orange to be able to act like blue in a blue system. So with spiral dynamics, we can also see that, if it happens here in this stage of the spiral, it will also happen from purple emerging to red. So when that first person said, why should I collect firewood? I'm stronger, I'm better. This is also a form of ADHD that happens lower in the spiral, and we begin to see the same phenomena happening in multiple cases of the spiral. But this is just where we are in society today. So this is something to keep in mind. But we can begin to see how we can use spiral dynamics to kind of create some distance and perhaps be a little bit kinder to ourselves. And very interesting. And I don't blame, some of these. It's very paradoxical, right? That someone who is 50 years old and might have, been in stage blue their whole life, here comes a kid that just kind of acts differently. Because we can kind of explain the stages that we've gone through, but we can't explain what is below us. So actually, from blue's perspective, they have a red person and an orange person. They can't see the difference. So this is something that we will also begin to understand. Well, and just like, let's continue. Yeah. Yeah, it's very difficult to understand stages that we haven't gone through. So yeah, this is the same with red. Red can't see the difference between someone who's operating from blue or purple. They both are just we, but this is just how spiral dynamics works. Yes.
Is there any similar dysfunction that you think happens in the other direction, like from red to blue, or how societies have been able to learn?
We will begin to kind of talk a little bit about reverse behaviors later if we have enough time. I want to see where we are time-wise. 12:30. So we still have an hour. I think we might be able to touch on some more nuanced things. So just like red, we remember red didn't really scale. The same way orange doesn't really scale. If everyone just kind of went for whatever they wanted and it's very competitive, let's talk a little bit about orange. I don't think we have done that. We have kind of talked about it from a collective level, like Dubai, but orange is again, me. This is kind of orange likes to consume things, like status symbols, experiences, anything really that orange gets its hands on, it likes to consume because it's reacting away from the sacrifice of blue, waiting. Blue doesn't want to take any risks, but orange is definitely ready to take a lot of risks. So orange likes to splurge in that sense. And this is something that is very normal. We have a lot of people who think that, oh, when I get rich, I'm going to buy a lot of things, and this is when I'll be happy. But this is also kind of a trap that we can call this happiness around the corner. Because orange, they consume one thing, and then they go to the next thing, and they go to the next thing. This is something that we see a lot. Advertising works really well. Of course, advertising works really well against most stages, but orange is really where a lot of the advertising that we see today happens. Orange wants kind of the quick bullet, and when they get something, well, they move on to the next best thing. But orange, as I said, doesn't really scale. You can buy 10 cars, a house, maybe 2, but eventually there's no lasting happiness. Orange will exhaust itself too, both on the individual level, but also on the collective level. If everyone lived like an American today, that might be very orange, we would need multiple planets. So this is something orange simply doesn't scale. So this is where we begin to see the next straw man, the next stage coming in here, which is green. So green is known for the community, for example. Again, it's not really on a tribe level, or not really on a nation level, but more so on like a world level. So we can begin to see again that well, green comes out of orange. And where does it come out? Well, it comes out where competition is no longer as fierce. So we can see Scandinavian countries, for example, or elite universities where, you might come from an orange family that sends you to school to be rich, and then something happens. Then now the kid doesn't want to be rich anymore. Now they want to fix the world or something like that. So a person we can take as an example is Bill Gates, right? Grew up in a very blue family, then he became orange. He became really successful, but now after that it turned into something else. Green emerges. So most of the companies today are actually very transparent with their orangeness, right? Making value for the shareholders. Everyone knows that a company is there to make money, but we are beginning also to see green companies like Patagonia, for example, or movements that are perhaps non-profit driven. But you also have blue institutions, right, like old school lawyer firms that are very, like, trust us. And then you have also hybrids that are half blue and half orange. But we are beginning to see new green companies that are coming out. And of course, these companies, they have their audience. A green person would never want to work in a purely evil orange company. But green, yes, they would like to work. So another stage here on the whiteboard, and we can I will need some more space because we actually have a lot more stages to cover here. So we will remember me, and we, and all that, but we need the real estate for this. So Let's use applied spiral dynamics, just like how we described ADHD. We can use this model again here to describe some other phenomena that we might see. For example, greenwashing. What is greenwashing? I'm sure everyone here has heard the term greenwashing. Greenwashing is simply when an orange company that has orange values wants to make money, but they realize that, oh, if we put a green facade, then people will buy our stuff. And the green people, they really don't like that. You know, then and also, like blue, orange, they will not kill you, but they will kill your company. Green, however, they will not, they will kill your reputation. This is what green is really good at. A lot of the cancel culture is coming from a lot of green. And of course, we are strawmanning this again, but okay, a company or a person, like somebody who sits at the dinner table and say, oh, I barely eat any meat, but they actually do. This is also greenwashing happening for the individual. So we can see this, but then that means that we also have blue washing, for example, when there's like a warlord that is like, vote for me, I like to follow the rules. So you have this type of washing behavior happening across the spiral. So let's talk a little bit about green. Green, of course, reacts away from money is the best thing in the world. Now money is evil. Green really likes equality, right? Everyone needs to be listened to. This is a very important stage. It's really community on like a world level. A lot of the protesting and rights movements are led by green. Green green understands and sees that, well, orange doesn't scale, but on a planetary level, we need to do something. Of course, there's not much solutions coming from green because they are focused on more so kind of the outrage of what is happening. So green is it can be quite exhausting to be very angry. Green. And green, something we will begin to see soon where green exhausts itself too. So green doesn't like bigots. This is something that bigotry, green really dislikes bigotry, but in their work, they pretty much become what they set out to defeat. So please focus on this because this is very difficult to grasp, but for some. So green says, everyone who doesn't think like us or me is a bigot. And what they don't understand is that makes green also a bigot. So let's, again, green says, everyone who doesn't think like us is a bigot. And unfortunately, that makes them a bigot. This is a very common trap that is very difficult for green to break away from. They're all heart. Yeah, that is difficult. They become the bigot that they set out to defeat. And this is where a lot of people actually get stuck. But some people, they do understand that, there's more nuance than this. It's not entirely black or white. There is more to this. Yes?
Green for me sounds like the most evil part right now because they kind of cool, but follow their rules and like it's crazy.
Yeah. Green takes up a lot of not necessarily economical real estate, but outrage real estate. So this is a very powerful stage actually that is growing. We can see a lot of markets are being forced to kind of follow the green rules, but green so for example the left party, and we will go in a little bit into politics, and we are just doing this kind of from a fun perspective here. Green, some of these questions are very, you have to agree with everything, otherwise you're part of the problem. This can create a lot of problem for green. They have lost elections because they were so focused on everyone needs to agree. Because the next stage is we will enjoy this stage here. Yellow is actually what emerges because this paradox of there's more nuance, we need to understand more nuance, especially green. Green exists a lot in groups. We, again. There becomes this groupthink, and we want to invite more nuance into this. And this is where yellow, thinking for yourself, the systems thinker, the one who can actually see the nuance in a system, understands the issues and understands the different parts of the system. If we want to create solutions, we can't just say, if you don't agree with this, you are part of the problem. No, we need to come with actual solutions, and this is where in spiral dynamics we see a very big shift. We call this stage 2 and stage 1. So now we are headed into a new stage of the spiral, which is stage 2. We have talked about stage 1. So what separates stage 1 from stage 2? Well, all these stages, they have something in common, which is if everyone just thought like me, the world would be fixed. So green thinks if everyone thought like me, it would be good. Same with orange, same with blue, same with red, of course. This is kind of what stage 1 is about. But stage yellow, of course, let's divide yellow into 2 parts, because yellow is kind of like a hybrid. Half of yellow, the lower part, is actually still stuck in stage 1, and the other part is a part of stage 2. So, green realizes that I need to see the nuance, I need to be able to understand the system to make an impact, and this is where yellow can emerge. Yellow is the systems thinker that can understand the system. It's almost like a chameleon, right? Yellow can go into a meeting and kind of not trigger the greens. They can actually create very nice solutions for them, but also create value for the orange and stability for the blues, and not trigger the reds too much, right? They understand that, well, they are kind of like a chameleon. They are like the moderates, for example. These are very valuable people because, for example, if you are half orange and half yellow, then you can really understand and create more value than someone who is just stuck at orange. So, example, Tesla, the company, is actually a yellow institution. They realized that, oh, we want to create a lot of value. We see what is happening in the world. We're shifting into this green era, so we're just not going to make cars. We're going to make cars that also includes green, and we're going to create something new. Create new trends. This is what makes yellow very powerful. They can kind of create value for the whole chain. They might not be aware of it, but they can like rally crowds. So if you have a politician that is green, they will not be able to rally half of the country. They will get too stuck in details, while a yellow politician will be able to kind of get the blues, get the greens, get the oranges even, because they can kind of create value for the whole system. Another example is like Google Ads, for example. It's a product that works for multiple stages of the spiral. It's not just Google Ads for sustainability, but it actually invites nuance. So, let's talk about politics again, right? Because you see, we see a lot of yellow/orange people in the world that are very powerful, influential people, but we don't really see a lot of yellow/green people, actually, because green alienated them, especially in the last election, and they said like, oh, if you don't agree with everything, you are a part of the problem. So a lot of yellow people who could have actually helped them win the election had to go over and create a coalition between yellow, orange, and blue, and then green actually lost the election. But we can use this model to also predict what the next generation of left leaders will be like. They will have to be green/yellow in order to counter the coalition that defeated them. So that is kind of the new wave of politicians that we will see emerge from this situation. American politics is actually really easy to understand because it's very zigzag. It just goes in one. It's very simple compared to, for example, European politics, where you have 10 parties that kind of create a more advanced structure. But here we can use spiral dynamics to understand the waves of politics in a different way. So, of course, yellow, just like orange, yellow will eventually exhaust itself too. just like orange likes to consume things, experiences, yellow tends to sometimes fall into the trap of consuming something else, like information, perspectives. We can call this truth around the corner rather than happiness around the corner. Oh, I just need to collect one more model or one more framework or one more book. This can create a very heavy mind. A yellow person might think that the best way to learn about the mind is to read about the mind. This is a very Western thing. Actually, coming up here is really the big goal for educational institutions, to get as many people up here as possible. Then you have really become someone who is at the very top of awareness. I would say somewhere around 1 to 5% of people are stage 2, while about 95% of people are based in these stages. So it's quite rare to actually have yellow people. Most people, when they read about spiral dynamics, they immediately say, I'm yellow. So this is what most of you guys are also thinking now, and that might be true, because you wouldn't really come to a spiral dynamics talk if you weren't really I'll give that to us. But we also have, we also have our past in blue, right? And we have our past from orange, and we have our past from green. So just like a country is not just one, yellow color. Maybe if we had a perfect education system and we just got everyone to yellow, it would be 100% yellow. But actually, we have a lot of people in a country that kind of their base color makes up the spiral dynamics footprint of the country. Just like a mind consists of 10,000 beliefs, for example. So just like a country is made out of people, which makes the color of the country, a mind is made up of beliefs, which makes up a person's spiral dynamics footprint. So you might have 40% of your base in yellow, and then, but we all have our kind of spiral dynamics footprint, and we can begin to recognize that some of our friends share a spiral dynamics footprint with us. We tend to kind of connect with like-minded people. Yes, you had a question. Well, this is a question that doesn't really. Well, this is a very yellow question, actually, right? Because there aren't, in real life, we don't have a room with only yellow people that are only yellow. This is something that now we're trying to imagine something, and this is actually a yellow trap, confusing the map for the territory. Just like we think that reading about the mind will help us understand the mind, there's a disconnection here. And actually, the better you are at constructing these mental models, the more you might fall into the trap of confusing them for reality. So this can become very energy intense, that now when you learn a new thing, you have to update your world model. You might actually think that, you might learn Myers-Briggs, you might learn spiral dynamics, you might learn a different hierarchy, you might learn a lot of things. And now all of this needs to, now you are seeing the world through this mental map, and this is what actually becomes the bottleneck of society here where we are. This is more, right? More models, more intellectualism, more thinking. This is a very mind-heavy stage. Let's see where we are. We have time to continue our journey up the spiral, I think. Now it's 12:48. It is going to be until 13:30, yes? Yeah? Okay, so we have some time. So this kind of creates the depressed philosopher phenomena that we sometimes see. Someone who is very smart, and something that we can ask yellow that they don't really like is, okay, if you are so smart, then why are you not happy? This is a big question for yellow, actually. So yeah, let's. I know that we are in Web3 here, so I just wanted to also kind of talk about seeing a movement from the outside. We talked about greenwashing, for example, and this was when you had an orange an orange company that acts green, or it can happen across the whole spiral. If we look at, let's look at movements, for example. We might see a protest movement, the anti-war movement, the climate movement, or like Black Lives Matter. We can see and say, oh, they are the green ones. They are the troublemakers. But actually, a movement is often consisting of multiple stages. So you might actually have the people who are morally outraged of something that come from elite institutions. They might be actually operating from green, but 90% of the movement, or more even, might just be people who want to loot things, or just don't want to go to war. So from the outside, we don't want to just simplify and say, this movement is green. But if we look closer, we can see that actually some of these stages like to work together. And the crypto community, I think, gets a lot of slack because we say, oh, these are all orange people that rug pull each other, right? But actually, there wouldn't be anything to rug pull if we didn't have the yellow people, the actual people who are building the systems, who genuinely have integrated green, who want like a decentralized future. They, like 10% of the crypto movement is deeply yellow. The problem, though, is that there's a lot of orange happening here too. Yeah, there might even be, lots of red. And something that I have observed is actually something we can call reverse washing behavior. You have greenwashing when orange acts green, but actually in Web3 community, we have reverse washing when an orange person acts blue, which is like, oh, we are not in it to make money. We are in here to create structures. So this is something that is very interesting about the Web3 movement. That now we have started seeing reverse washing behavior. So that is super exciting. Yeah. Okay. But we were at yellow. Yellow. Very smart, very smart stage, but we kind of needs to transfer this smartness into wisdom. There's a difference between information that make us heavy or heavier and information that make us lighter. Actually, the difficult part for yellow is to become a student again, because if you are operating from yellow or /orange, you might be very successful. A lot of people might look up to you. You're creating value. People are dependent on you. So then you kind of become the master, especially of the Western world. Yellow is like the apex tier. But a lot of, how are we gonna do this? We don't have any space, but we will, yellow exhausts itself, and there's a new stage that will come up. We have one more here. Turquoise. I think, I'm Swedish, so I get to spell turquoise incorrectly. So turquoise will eventually emerge out of yellow. And what is this? Well, the question of, if you're so smart, then why are you not happy? Really is something that goes into yellow. And I would like to just read something that I found online that went viral on Twitter the other day. Let's see. So here, we can turn it. But I will read. There's a tweet that says from Matt Welter: "I have an amazing girlfriend making 450K this year. Can work anywhere, anytime. I live in a house with a pool. Yet I have anxiety every damn day. Tight chest, hard to take deep breaths, intrusive thoughts, always feeling not enough. Can never relax. What went wrong?" Well, this is what went wrong. This person is probably operating from orange/yellow, and now he's stuck. Western school can't really help us here. We are deeply rational. We think that learning about the mind, reading about the mind is going to liberate our mind, but this kind of makes it a lot heavier. All these kind of structures that we have created are bringing us further away from actual reality. This creates a quite tangled mind. So how do we kind of how do we move on from this? Well, actually, this is where a lot of people, this is the bottleneck that we spoke on in the lightning talk, that this is where the smartest Western people in the world get stuck. But there is a way, I think. So turquoise, collective stage. Now we are again less. Maybe it's not the most important thing to figure out where we are right, but rather where we are wrong. We have kind of began to build almost like an ego at this point. And we can see in the spiral dynamics model, I will show here, hopefully everyone can see, but this is what on the left here, this is actually the spiral dynamics, the original shape of spiral dynamics. We can see it goes out. So we want to have more complexity. One can look at this and say turquoise comes after. We might think that, oh, we want bigger models, we want bigger worldviews. You know, here we had tribe, here we had nation, here we had world. Oh, this must mean that here we have universe. This is what kind of creates this tangled thinking that we need more, thinking. This is where people get stuck in yellow, and we can't think our way out of what the mind created to begin with. We need to, instead of learning about the mind, perhaps it would be better to observe the mind, to actually learn about the mind. Maybe the most rational, the hyper-rational thing would be to simply observe the mind instead of reading of the mind. So this is actually kind of the modern spiral dynamics model that we're trying to introduce here, that we see a directional shift happening at yellow, which is quite counterproductive because the tools that have taken us all the way up to yellow are not the tools that will help us go further. Actually, we need to, instead of learn, we need to almost unlearn a lot of the things that we have kind of picked up along the way. So I will also show another. And we can see this happening across the whole spiral, right? You see, it's going in this direction, and this is what a lot of people this is why people get stuck. We can't just continue to go into mental complexity. We need to head for simplicity instead. So here we can have another example. We begin with the tier 1 stages here in the middle, and then we're headed out and we can observe kind of a larger complexity. But actually there's directional shift that we will now begin to head into insight rather than just out blind. So let's discuss this. So we somewhere along the line we realized that okay, we can learn more about the mind by observing the mind instead of reading of the mind. This is actually a quite mystical thing. Like turquoise is, from the perspective of yellow, looks like green, right? The woo-woo kind of people, but actually there's a lot of wisdom here. Actually, when you begin, maybe go to a breathwork place or meditation place, this is a community, this is a collective place where you might have someone who has learned that, oh, we can learn a lot by observing rather than reacting. Yes?
I'm teaching breathwork at 9:30 every morning.
Great. Yeah? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Transcend the turquoise. What happens?
Well, a red person would be like a sore thumb in that they wouldn't really be attracted to that environment, really. I will tell you a trap of yellow. So, yellow is very smart. Yellow might intuitively realize that, oh, I'm stuck in a loop of reaction. I'm very reactive. I'm thinking. Like the guy from Twitter, he realizes that he's very reactive. And one might think that, oh, I need to reverse this loop of reaction. But what is the opposite of reacting? Well, it is the loop, the opposite of reacting is reflecting. But that is also a yellow trap, because reflecting is a mental reaction. So a lot of yellow people, they get stuck in this mental reaction, thinking that that is the opposite of reacting. And actually the opposite of this, to unlearn, is not to reflect about something, but to observe. This is, when we begin to observe, we will realize that the map is not the territory. All these mental kind of air castles that we had built in yellow just will kind of disappear from this. And this is where we can begin to see what's actually happening. This is where a lot of this wisdom happens. And this is turquoise. But from yellow's perspective, of course, it looks like green. So actually making the mystical natural, because for the mystic, or the one who is going to these meditation retreats or whatever, this is very natural. But yellow doesn't understand it, and sometimes yellow really needs to suffer a lot to even be open to this type of experience. But turquoise, of course, when you come to a retreat or a setting like this, you will often have a turquoise person, and they will be kind of preaching to the greens. There's not a lot of yellow people. If yellow people go here, they will it will be quite fast. There's a lot of green people who are kind of going to these communities. This is where they find, the loving atmosphere. And this can create also a trap for turquoise, because green is very demanding. They expect a spiritual person to not have sexual feelings, not be angry, not eat meat. There's a spiritual persona that once you have kind of released yellow a little bit and found value in the kind of spiritual, that is now becoming the more natural. Now there's a whole new kind of meta to follow. Oh, now I'm going to be spiritual. This can create what I like to call the guru mask, where actually instead of seeing clearly like we wanted to, we actually begin to suppress parts of ourselves, and often to kind of facilitate green, because green, they want their spiritual teacher to look like a spiritual teacher. So this is what I like to call the guru trap. We don't want to fall into it. Actually, the only thing that we need to do is we need to untangle by observing. This is where we can get a lot of the value out of turquoise. And we can see here in this thing here that now we are beginning to simplify. Yellow, like me, right? Now we're in a very yellow territory. Spiral Dynamics is deeply yellow. It's made by yellow people. So I'm kind of speaking a yellow language here, trying to explain something that is actually quite simple. So turquoise, here, if you have a yellow person like me, they will have a 90 or 83-minute talk on a model, when maybe a turquoise person would just kind of say the same thing. Maybe we have some graphics designers. If I want to make a circle, right, a yellow person will make 100 dots to make the perfect circle. But actually, you just need two dots to make the most perfect circle. Sometimes simplicity can give us more than complexity. And sometimes we have to suffer through complexity to appreciate simplicity. Yellow wants the sexy, but actually simplicity is where a lot of this real value happens. So when we begin to kind of get some of the fruits of simplicity, then a lot of this is kind of unnecessary. But of course, we're trying to create something that points beyond itself. This is the challenge of spiral dynamics. But we mentioned that turquoise exhausts itself a little bit too, right? We can create this guru mask again. And as we said, it is kind of headed in the right direction. Turquoise might fall into the trap of having the ego of not having an ego, right? The spiritual persona. I don't have an ego. I'm teaching these greens out of the goodness of my heart, right? We are trying to see that delusion here can sneak in too. Another trap for turquoise is that if you are yellow/turquoise, you might create, instead of rational frameworks, you might begin to create mystical frameworks. This is a quite common thing for a yellow turquoise to do, when actually the only thing we need to do is just kind of release some of this complexity through observation. This is really what turquoise is about. maybe some of you are from Twitter. You have a lot of people that we call like schizos, unfortunately. This can happen when maybe you are orange and you take drugs, for example, and you get glimpses of like something turquoise, for example, or something even higher, but you don't really have yellow, the systems thinker, the builder to untangle, because so this creates a lot of residue that now we have an unhealthy spiral dynamics footprint. We don't want to skip stages. This is what unhealthy spiral dynamics looks like. We want to kind of push ourselves up. So this is an example of an unhealthy spiral dynamics footprint. But yellow, we mentioned the systems thinker. We have really gone through this whole thing. Now we can build systems, but yellow doesn't realize that it's not really about creating the perfect systems, because when we become system builders, we also become system dismantlers. It's the same process to build and also to untangle. This is the actual skill that we are learning at yellow, and now we can kind of use this tool, this very powerful thing, to untangle ourselves in a way towards simplicity. This is where the turquoise work begins. Our goal is not to create more complexity, but rather simplicity. So, again, let's say we are strawmanning this. Just like yellow exhausted itself and green exhausted itself, we are kind of showing some potential traps, but something comes after turquoise. And here we have coral. And because now we are familiar with the model, we know that this is going to be a more stage, a me stage again. But what could possibly come after the guru stage of turquoise? Well, turquoise, they might realize, I'm so tired of playing with these green people. I'm ready to give up my guru status and fully mystic life and live something more natural. Actually, here in coral, we have radical authenticity. Which is now we are actually beginning to see clearly, and of course, so I will read something to you guys now, a coral example that I found also on Twitter. So we will read a coral statement here. Don't follow crowds. Follow the innate feelings inside of you. Do what you feel, not what you think. Thoughts have been placed in our heads to make everyone assimilate. Follow what you feel. You have the best ideas. Other people's opinions are usually more distractive than informative. Follow your own vision. Base your actions on love. Do things you love, and if you don't absolutely love something, stop doing it as soon as you can. When you first wake up, don't hop right on the phone or the internet or even speak to anyone for even up to an hour if possible. Just be still and enjoy your own imagination. It's better than every movie. So, who could this be, right? Who could this be? Well, I will... Sorry? No, this is actually Kanye West. Right? Because turquoise actually understands that if I let go of what a spiritual person should be like, green would cancel a pure coral person in an instant. There is something mystical about this radical authenticity that we can't really place our finger on. And of course, Kanye might not have the most healthy spiral dynamics footprint, but it's a peek into a coral mind, right? You have artists, for example, who are very coral, and then maybe they get swallowed up by the establishment, and this is kind of where the losing of soul comes in, where they lose this coral spark. But this is a me. This is a more stage. It's a funny stage, but actually most of coral, Kanye is a super interesting example because it happens externally. He has kind of skipped a lot of the body awareness, so we get to kind of glimpse into a coral mind. But actually most of coral stage awareness is actually happening inside meditation retreats, where someone is like meditating and then they are feeling maybe rage or something like that, and they're like, no, I'm not angry. oh, and then it's like, oh, actually, I am angry. And now, when you're not suppressing something, you can actually begin to work with it. This is what actually exhausts turquoise, this stallment. We can't work with something that we suppress. This is what coral realizes. Most of this actually happens internally, but this is the gift of coral. We have these tier 1 stages, but we also have the being able to untangle what comes up, what we feel, what we think. We have the body awareness of turquoise, but now we also have kind of the radical authenticity to work with comes up. So now we are kind of, yeah?
And maybe like when you use an example like Kanye West, I notice I'm immediately questioning, do I want to be like that guy? Or like,
Sure. Yeah, no, I mean, it's funny, right? Because we mentioned ADHD, for example, right? When something emerges out of the system, right, we call it a diagnosis. And we have the same thing happening, of course, in yellow emerging from green. Yellow kind of get the free pass to be a little bit autistic, right? Because they are so good at creating value. So we don't really throw many diagnoses on them. But then we have like the people who are like really far ahead of the curve, right? These are just crazy people. And actually, if we treat them crazy, they might just also become alienated and crazy. But there's a lot of interesting things here. They might not be the most, I'm sure he's been through a lot, right? And actually, I don't encourage everyone to like scream into their pillow, because like just because we feel angry and we let it out, this actually doesn't, this authenticity, we can hurt people, right? And this is actually where coral can begin to realize that this authenticity, I'm actually not done. I might hurt people. Yeah.
When we think about people being in different stages, is there also an alternative view to see how we can be a balanced person if we have multiple of these parts together? I mean, this would be
A what person?
like a balanced person.
Mm.
For example, like Charles Taylor, he would probably say, well, we need like a good level of authenticity, a good level of instrumentalism, and a good level of feeling kind of like the social trajectory of like where do we go together as the norms. That makes a balanced person.
Yeah, well, I think a lot of, like sometimes with people like Kanye, for example, we kind of turn them crazy, I would say, right? Because we put the very green standards of, and this is what I meant, like coral, like turquoise understands that this authenticity was probably going to get me canceled. But I also want to highlight that most of actual coral in the world is not visible on Twitter. It is happening as we are meditating or as we are releasing. It is a core mechanism that we need, but it exhausts itself too, because we realize that just because I feel angry, just because I feel, whatever I have carried up, that's not enough for me to kind of release it. There is something else that needs to happen. And this is where actually the next and final stage in spiral dynamics comes up, called teal. So someone had a question.
do you have other examples of coral companies?
Well, if you look at coral companies, very interesting. Well, we don't really know what coral societies will look like yet, because they are kind of, we just have glimpses of external coral. But if we look at Vipassana retreats, for example, they are set up in a way where the people who come there, you're not allowed to talk, you're not allowed to have religious symbols, you're not allowed to even display any guru trap at all. These are methods to kind of create the environment where we have the body awareness, we also work with what comes up, and then we also have kind of the teal wisdom of that comes in. Of course, no, we don't really have. Of course, there are some other examples that come to mind, like Teal Swan, for example, who is very sharp in the sense that she's a spiritual teacher, and sometimes she rubs people the wrong way. And she says, oh, this is just who I am. I'm authentic. But if you are authentic, does that mean that you are done? Actually, a lot of the things that we react from, well, it means that we are simply not finished. And this is where Teal comes in. Teal actually realizes, again, less. We actually have to react to see what we carry, but actually, how do we release this? Well, this is something that Teal can do. This is again the untangling of yellow, the body awareness of turquoise, the authenticity and clarity of working what it is, but then also the shift from coral to teal is, a person might be triggered by something. We have our old patterns, something triggers us. This is either an opportunity to authentically kind of react and double down on this trigger, but every trigger opportunity can also become a healing opportunity. So we need to be triggered in order to release something. I can't, if I ask you, what values do you have? Can you name all your values? You actually can't. In order to know what we carry, we need to be triggered by them, either through imagination or conversation or meditation. This is how we get to be triggered, and every trigger is actually a healing opportunity, and this is what teal understands. This actually getting transcend or moving past beliefs are actually just breaking patterns. So this is actually what somebody who is teal is doing. They're breaking their old patterns, becoming less, but at the same time more. Of course, we might have a different seminar where we can jump into the tier 2 stages more later during this edge here. But we are, unfortunately, we have 15 minutes to kind of round this off. But teal actually is very aligned with Eastern. Actually, this whole thing here, we see that the spiral has two parts. We have the bottom part, which is kind of the Western, what we learn in the West. We learn how to become system builders, but actually we don't want to continue to build complex systems. We actually realize here in the middle that we become system builders to become system dismantlers. And this is where actually the Eastern come in. The Eastern school connects with the Western. We begin, instead of learning, to begin to unlearn. This is kind of the core pattern. If you can remember anything from this talk here, it is that complexity works until a certain way, and then we must begin to go for insight rather than out blind. That is the most important thing that I'm sharing here today. So yes, let's try to round this off a little bit. But first we can again see this issue. This is a book cover from the 60s or the 70s. We can see here again that this is actually kind of a trap in a sense. When we look at this, we might see, oh yes, tribe, nation, world, universe, meta, but actually that it's not like that. We don't want to go into increasing complexity. So I would be very happy to answer any questions about the model to kind of round off this thing. Yes.
Especially with the colors, it reminds me a lot of reinventing organizations.
Mm-hmm. Yes, so actually, like kind of the first generation of spiral dynamics was kind of yellow and below, and of course these stages are super rigid. If you want to help people become better leaders, and they are blue, then you kind of let them become orange in a sense. So the model works really well to kind of get people up to yellow. So traditionally, spiral dynamics has mostly been used for this purpose. So a lot of the literature today are based on that. Yes.
Where would you say somatic healing falls? Is it like turquoise or coral? Coral seems to be very like mind oriented. Where you mentioned a lot of turquoise being at the body level. So for somatic, it's like that connection between the mind and the body.
So this is, I suppose, the problem of yellow. There's no body awareness. We are just working with the mind. The body opens up the possibility for working with the body. This is where releasing happens. It doesn't happen with the mind. We can't just unthink a thought. So like releasing, healing for me is very close to releasing. Releasing happens when we begin to work with the higher stages, and we have implemented some of them. Yes.
I feel like, I'm not sure what you perceive it, but it looks like a very Western-centric model. It feels like this is the story of capitalism because when I, for example, when you go and visit local indigenous communities, when you even visit Eastern communities, right, they either seem to have transcended and skipped the whole stage of red, blue, orange, green,
Yeah.
and they are turquoise, or they just didn't have this spiral as it's shown here. It feels like a very beautiful model, and that I can also reflect, but I also strongly feel like I reflect it because I come from a Western education.
Yeah, and this is one of the main critiques of spiral dynamics, actually, that it is very Western. I would like to kind of argue that actually there are multiple ways to get to yellow. We don't have to go through the economic system. Actually, there are some things, right, like empowerment, not green ethics, but like structure. Then here we have determination. There are certain things that we learn, and at the end, yellow is also very important. Actually, the Buddha, he says that one of the core enlightenment factors is something that he calls vikaya, which is the ability to untangle. Which is something that we need to learn. If we just begin to meditate at a purple stage, we don't really have this nuance of thinking to be unbiased, to kind of untangle. I think it is a lot easier to meditate and untangle the mind if you have learned how to build. Of course, the learning how to build is just the way that we get educated in Western. The actual thing that we need is learning how to untangle, and that can happen through other wisdom traditions. We don't need to kind of jump through this thing, but but I understand your question, and this is something that is very important. Yes.
Is there any correlation between the initial level from where you start and the potential level? Let's say the person was born in initial red circle, but obtained to achieve blue and orange, and for this person it's easier to achieve turquoise or yellow than just to green, because this person has a wider vision of the world, being on different levels and wider understanding. Or it's easier for green person to achieve turquoise.
Well, as I said, you kind of inherit your place in the spiral. So you kind of, if you are lucky to have a yellow parents, they will really give you the tools. They will teach you more about life than school can, for example. Everyone is working with what they have. Really, of course, a lot of us might think again, like, oh, I'm yellow, but I would encourage everyone here to kind of understand these stages, both on what is good, but also what is potentially bad. For example, we might have some very blue good or bad thinking, right? Oh, I want to I must be a good person, or this is my duty. Might be kind of themes that we carry from here. Red, we might not be able to stand up for ourselves if we haven't really integrated this. Orange might be, oh, I must make it. You know, like a lot of these things that we take for granted that we have identified with, because kind of what we hold very close to ourselves is really what becomes invisible. So by using this as like a potential mirror, oh, am I carrying a lot of duty? Am I carrying a lot of orange? Am I carrying a lot of green? Actually, the goal is to kind of become unlearners rather than learners. There's a lot of focus on learning, and this is again what kind of creates this yellow trap that we spoke about. Of course, we can write books about every stage, but that is not really the point. The point is really not to accumulate more information. The goal is again to kind of, I encourage us to become students again here at Yellow. So I don't think, I don't, yeah, yeah.
So when you keep on going up, does it loop around and come back down from below, like what you implied with the two whites on the picture in the back? Or is it fractal? What happens?
Yes, actually, there is a different stage that we have observed here also, which we call white. So if we read about concentration camps, for example, there's actually a stage that is below beige, which is white. It's a collective we stage. If you break a person down to the point where you kind of make them lose hope, they become something more like a herd animal. There is a lower stage. This is a regressive stage that I think, well, we can kind of take that into consideration also. And really what is cool about this stage is if we are talking about AI alignment and we want AI to go through some of these stages, actually this white becomes very important because this becomes kind of the kickstart stage. Let's say an AI could go through these stages, then perhaps alignment would be a natural byproduct. This is called bottom-up AI rather than top-down AI that we are kind of taking for granted today. This is a field that will likely emerge in the future, and spiral dynamics and other models might be very interesting. But this is a model for unlearning rather than learning. Of course, some of you might just take this model and just throw it in the back and it will become heavy knowledge. We want this to be a source of unlearning. So I want to highlight that. Yes?
Yeah, I'm curious, what color do you see like your own personal spiral dynamics footprint to be? And second, like if you feel like there's areas that you want to integrate more. Third is like for the world, what do you see the current footprint to be, and do you think it should go a certain direction?
Yes, so right now the Western world is, we have kind of a few people at Yellow who are kind of leading, they have most of the agency, or not most of the agency, but they have a lot of agency. Green is still a minority and is only found in quite privileged communities, and not a lot of green people actually break out of Yellow. This is not very common, but orange, of course, we can see very, very prevalent. Blue also, blue is probably the most dominant stage in the world today, because the institutions that we take for granted and build upon are very blue. A lot of us carry a lot of blue. So, yeah. And me, for example, right now, something that Yellow does, in order to create very complex thinking, we're not really speaking even English. We are using like labels like turquoise, yellow, green. We have created a new type of language to even complicate our language. This is something that Yellow does to kind of fit all this complexity in, instead of going for simplicity. So actually here, when I'm speaking with you guys, I have actually kind of regressed down to Yellow. I have, so I am speaking now from a very Yellow perspective, but I'm trying to use Yellow to point beyond itself. But of course I wouldn't be able to do this if I didn't come down from a different stage up here. So I'm probably a mix of perhaps other stages up there. Yes?
So you showed this first graph, which shows complexity increasing
Yes.
in the 1960s.
Uh-huh.
Now you showed a new graph where basically the spiral model has been updated.
Yes.
And it's about minimizing complexity. I'm curious how this model has evolved over time. Who decides when to update it, how to improve it? Because that's quite interesting.
Yes. So actually, some of the contributions I come from a research institute called ORI, Open Research Institute. Our addition to the model is actually changing the shape, connecting it to some of these stages here. Of course, this is not a finished work. This is, and then also, of course, adding white. But changing the shape of the spiral is our contribution, because we have seen that Yellow is where the bottleneck happens, going into complexity. So this is not something that you guys can learn from traditional spiral dynamics, but we are trying to bring it in a new way that actually leads to simplicity rather than complexity.
Do you relate this to astrology or not at all?
So from a Yellow perspective, astrology is something that is very green, maybe even purple, right? But actually, I think that there's a lot of value in these old wisdom traditions that can really give us more, like the synchronicities and all this. This is something that Yellow demands. For something to be useful, it needs to be proven. And then we have softer sciences like astrology, for example, that are kind of, you can't really prove them. It's very difficult to prove them. But the people who actually work with astrology, they become very wise. They can help guide others and themselves. And this is not very rational. But for the astrologer, it is very natural. They have already made the mystical natural. We don't need to go into different schools or anything, but there's probably value in something that gives a lot of other people value and that they vouch for, even though it can't be proven in a scientific textbook. Yes?
So when we think about systems change, like what
Well, I think first of all, the bottleneck of yellow is I think quite important to highlight that this is a bottleneck in the Western world. But system change. Well, we can change ourselves. That is really like we have the ability to do that. I think we don't need to kind of throw green propaganda on the orange people. Actually, we don't need to like give green information to orange. If orange unlearns what they have learned, green will likely emerge, or whatever emerges will be likely more nuanced and more healthy. So it's not really about bombarding people with a different stage. It is about trying to like break your own patterns and live healthy. Yeah.
Comment question. There are other vertical development frameworks, like Reuters, for example. I just want to point out that they also have the shape that you like the diamond shape, where they sort of ascend into a certain place and then they kind of descend back into the universal consciousness that you started from.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess this is kind of the pattern again, right? That we are kind of beginning where we're started, but now we have become not the same, but similar.
The question I have is, how does spiral dynamics account for basic personality differences that are not vertically mappable, like people who are different but both have blue?
Yeah, this is super interesting, and of course, this is where spiral dynamics breaks down. It's a beautiful model, but it's really not reality at all. This is something that points to reality, something that we can use as a tool to unlearn, rather than kind of try to squeeze it in and have it kind of take more and more. It is not really made to go into these topics, but I would be interested in hearing what you think about that.
Yeah, we should talk about it, because, I mean, like, the Kanye example, as an example, I mean, I can see how we understand him as choral in this framework, and at the same time, if you look at something like the Enneagram, and you look at different subtypings within the Enneagram, you can see that Kanye is sort of standard deviations away from a certain mean.
Yeah.
At a certain horizontal level, and so.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's very true, and I think a lot of people like carry their stuff. They have their own memories. They have their past experiences. This is kind of what make us, right? So this is really a simple framework. Actually, it might seem very complex, but it is actually simpler. And we should remember that it is a framework. The map is not the territory. So this should be a tool that helps us become lighter, not heavier. So I think that kind of concludes the very 83-minute long intro to spiral dynamics, and I hope some of it resonated. So thank you guys.